Sports fans, welcome back to the channel. If you're on YouTube and you are subscribed, you're a legend. As I've said before, if you're not, you might be disappointing me just a little bit. This is the Moving the Needle podcast, but we're not here for me to ramble on. I have the founder of the Monster Energy Pro Downhill Series in the States and also a co-founder of the US Open of mountain biking. It's got a real big spot in my heart, the US Open, so it's awesome to be back. And thanks to them, because I'm on site here and I'm getting to have a chat with you. Downhill racing is strong and downhill racing is back. You're making downhill racing great again in America. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah, a few times.
You probably have. Okay, I'm either, not claiming it then.
Yeah, it's either, make downhill racing great again or bring back Norba or make Norba great again.
I don't think we want to bring back Norba.
No, I don't think so.
I like it rolls off the tongue. Pro Downhill Series, I like that.
Yeah, you're actually the first person to say that to me, like in a public setting. There was a lot of thought into what to call it because we didn't want to define it as a national name. We wanted it to have a name that could appeal to people inside and outside of the country. It is a national level race in the U.S., a national level race series. It's the official national series of the U.S. Like USA Cycling has sanctioned it as such, but there was a lot of time spent going back and forth on what to call the series. So it rolls off the tongue. It's easy.
So how about giving like a little bit of a background? I know you did a really awesome one with Vital, so they should check that one out for like the full history. But maybe like highlights of like your background and then how you've come to launch this series again and then like revitalize US Open.
Well, you might want to define that question a little more. We might be here all night.
I was going to say, you don't do short because I don't really either. But give it a go. Give it a little bit of a highlights package.
Well, like you said, we did that big Vital podcast a little while back. It was like 3 hours, and we didn't even cover everything in that. I've just been in it for a long time. So in the 90s. Late 90s, so I'm 44 now. So in the late 90s, I was just like a teenager, and I've always loved mountain biking since I was a little kid, or all biking since I was a little kid. I was lucky enough to get into downhill racing. At that time, you kind of like had to be in the right place or know somebody. It was such a less visible sport, and I then went to college and raced in college, where I kind of got in with a good group of people. A lot of us from that era are still in the industry, and wound up on the Iron Horse team, like the versions of the Iron Horse team before Sam Hill, like when it was like definitely more like some kids from the East Coast of the United States. And that was a lot of fun. And I wish I could go back in time and race again, right? Because your brain is so much like yourself so much better when you're older, but you can't because you're older. Right? It's like the magic of Greg Menard, right? Like if you think about that, like he's one of the few people who like held on to the physical side of being able to race long enough to have like complete control of your mentality. Yeah,
and the experience that you can really like lean on it. Yeah, you're right. That's a good way to describe it.
It's sick, right? Like,
and not lose the mental edge of being able to go quick. Like that battle must be interesting in his head. I
think we've all been watching it play out.
Yeah.
But the reality was like I was winning like amateur stuff and became a like a East Coast pro, like a United States pro, but I was never going to beat Steve Pete, right? So I had this opportunity to start a bike park at Mountain Creek. I had worked with them a little bit. It's a much longer story, obviously, but I in 2003, I wound up kind of just giving up from racing, retiring from racing. I was a little salty about it too, because my thought was kind of like, why am I risking my life for $200? Like that was the biggest prize. And started Diablo Freeride Park. I had a partner in that. Sean and I started Diablo Freeride Park, and I just had this concept in my head that what I wanted in an event, and it was like open class, less rules, and more prize money. And so we did that first U.S. Open in 2003. Bryn Atkinson came and won it, and it was like you just can't appreciate anything when it's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd give anything to go back to that. Like, to be able to be, like, first of all, the things I would do different to be more ahead in life now. But just to experience it again, but you just don't know it, like I was 23. But damn, it was like really lucky that I happened to do that and put my heart into it then. Cause then I walked away from it for a long time. I wound up getting, like, I put so much into it. What's happened, I think that a lot of people experience this again, like, to talk about, like, the wisdom and, like, calmness that comes with age. Like, I have, like, gone deep into things and completely burned out and left them multiple times in my life. And that was one of them. I was so dedicated to it. But by 2006, I was completely out of it. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't making any money in it. And I wound up leaving. I went into retail in the bike industry. I took a huge loss in 2008 when the economy crashed, and I had a chain of bike stores that I was trying to do. And I wound up in doing, like, some banking stuff. Like, I actually went and worked for Morgan Stanley, which was the whole horrible. Like, I was just didn't belong there, right?
Yeah, it's not for everyone, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's
was
just
it
not
like soul crushing for you?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just there because I felt like I'd wasted so much of my life chasing a sport, both on the athlete side and on the business side, and just felt like I failed in both. So, like, what do? The pendulum swings. You go to the opposite. And so I wound up spending like 2 years, 3 years doing that. And then I was lucky enough, my father is in the insurance business, and so I wound up going to work for him for a few years, and that was enjoyable. I love my dad. We get along great, so it was fun. But he knew, like, what was calling me. And I had this opportunity in 2014, I think it was, to go back into, like, the resort business and be a risk manager. Like, everything, it's like things happen for a reason. Everything that I learned during that period, about from business management to insurance and finance and all that, I was able to move into risk management at a resort and went back to Mountain Creek and did that. And then I got there and immediately started helping with their bike events. And it was kind of like, I think the writing was on the wall. The second literally the first minute I was back in a bike event, I was like, it was on. And it took me a few years. As you know, I think you were you 2010? 10 was it?
That or 9?
9. Maybe you were 9.
Maybe 10. Maybe 10, actually.
This is bad. I should know this. But
well, I guess I should too.
You should know it even more than me. But
I don't know. I teased Luca about it, and I was like, shit, that was, like, why did I even need to do that? Like, I do care, but I don't care because it's just the past, what I used to do, right? It's cool.
Well, it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter.
It does. Well,
like, we're still going to sit. Well, I guess maybe
it matters.
Because of that, I'm sitting here, actually, I guess.
Yeah, but it matters, but it doesn't matter what year it was.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. So, but, like, in that period, the U.S. Open was huge. My former partner, Sean, had made the U.S. Open huge, but the ownership of the mountain had changed, and Diablo Freeride Park, which was that privately owned bike park that we had started at Mountain Creek, came to an end due to, like, just change in ownership of the property. And the U.S. Open wound up kind of going into hiatus. And so I get back at Mountain Creek. The U.S. Open's no longer there. They own the bike park themselves. We're running Pro GRT events, which is like, ugh. And then I just immediately went to work to get that U.S. Open back. And in 2016, I got it back from. In 2017, we relaunched it at Mountain Creek. And that was pretty magical. That was, like, top 10 life moments.
I was going to say, yeah, what did that feel like? Like, full circle and get it back and relaunch.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, nothing's what it looks like from the outside. I mean, so stressful. I basically jumped out of an airplane without a parachute, which is, like, a move I like to make. And, there was no guarantee anything was going to work. And, like, I quit my job. I invested everything back into this event again. Like, I just always believe in it. For some reason, like, me in the U.S. Open, like, I don't know. I just can't get over it. And so announced that we're going to do it. Mountain Creek, you know, I have so many relationships there. It's my hometown. That's where I grew up and everything. And the mountain goes into bankruptcy right like a couple weeks before the event. And so like we didn't even know if the chairlift was going to turn on. At one point I thought I was going to have to pay for the electric bill to turn the chairlift on. Like they stopped mowing the lawn at the lodge. We had some, like a friend of mine who works there came and mowed the lawn.
Way.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if people know that, you know, and like,
no, I mean, probably most don't.
Yeah, and like George Ryan, who's the trail builder there, like he just put in all this, you know, OT to help get the track built without getting paid, and it was a big lift. And we didn't have we had a little bit of industry support, but not like we do now. You know, we didn't really have it, so it was just a big risk. And it was an amazing, like a really amazing event. And Nico beat Gwyn in the showdown there at the end. They were the number, you know, I think 1 and 2 qualifiers. And it was like just a day that it just lives in history. Like it rained a bunch and then the sun came out and Nico's whole family was there. And when he won, it was just like really cool. It was just like, I don't know, kind of like a TV show with a happy ending. Like it was really good. And then it's like the event was over and it was tough. I talked about this before, like when you do what I do, it's very similar to being an athlete. And I remember it from being an athlete. Like if you focus really hard on an event and you train for a sporting event and it's over, win, lose, or draw, like that Monday can be really depressing.
Yeah.
And like I dealt with that a lot in the beginning. Like I had a very hard time because like the ups and downs of like putting everything you have into events. I think it's kind of made my brand, like my personal brand. People know that like if I'm doing it, I'm all in. But it took me years to like get okay with that.
What was the feeling post an event?
Yeah, like it was really hard. Like it was weird because like I just had one event a year. It was like a big event. I wasn't really doing anything else in the space. So like it leaves like a blackness, like a black hole. You know, like you come out of the event, you're like, and it was just a lot with that Mountain Creek event. It was like a really heavy thing, and I learned a lot about like, you know, using too many favors from people and things like that. It was a tough, like there was just a lot behind bringing that event back that I don't think a lot of people know. But on the front face though, it took off like crazy. Fox was super interested in it, which was amazing. And we wound up the next year immediately moving it up here to Killington. And the 2018 Killington event was like, man, it's like we are here. Like we arrived. Like we had this massive event. There's tons of people. I remember like Win Masters came to that one, Bernard Kerr. It was a humongous track. Rob Warner was at that event. That was how he and I became friends. He's you should talk to him about that event. I'm not going to tell those stories,
Yeah.
but it was pretty funny. And the track was wild. It came off the Gandhi. Like you guys went up like those gondola laps.
Yeah.
Like what was the average gondola lap you took? Like 20 minutes with a couple stops,
What,
right?
the K1 gondola
Yeah.
thing? Oh yeah, it's brutal up there.
Yeah, and it's like
So it
old
was like
school.
a long ass.
Yeah. And Nico won with a 4:54, and it was like that was just too much track. But the event was awesome. It was a lot of fun. We actually had a really weird incident. This is probably worth talking about. That was a really defining thing that probably really led to where we are today. It was like Tuesday of event week, and everybody's in town, and the UCI puts out we were fiercely like unsanctioned still at that point. Like from the beginning, the US Open was basically just like, screw everyone, no sanctioning. This is just, we do it. And the UCI puts out this, what do they call them? Communiques? We don't have those in the US.
No, I barely know what that is either.
Basically, it's like usually something bad, but it's like a message they put out to the riders and everybody, and it said, anybody who races the U.S. Open will be blacklisted and disqualified from.
Oh, they went through a stage of doing that. Yeah, you
from world
will pull your
champs.
license if it's not a UCI sanctioned race. It's like, what?
So
They
you
did
know,
that with other events as well, like for a
that
while.
year, yeah, the Whiskey 50 I think might have got hit with it on the marathon
it's
side.
like insane. It's like they give you
It was a
like
lot.
7 or 8 events, and then they say, no, you can't go do these other events to like what so we can't earn a living.
It's
What the? It's just absurd.
It really is. And I did a lot of research, and I could be wrong. So this is like based on what people have told me and what I've kind of learned about it. Is that rule is a very old rule, and it comes from road cycling.
Yeah,
And it was
makes
designed
sense.
to keep guys like a Tour de France winner, like a big, like what do they call the main events? And I'm not a big road bike guy. Like the Tour, they have like Paris-Roubaix and Tour de France, the big ones,
Well,
the
they
classics.
call it classics.
The classics.
Yeah, okay.
Like the riders, the racers who race that, it was like designed to keep them from going to like small town events and taking all the prize money.
Okay.
That's what I was
Which
told.
is like a fair
Yeah, like
thing
it
back in
started
the
out
day.
kind of like holistic.
Within good intentions.
Yeah, and then it's just been interpreted and used over the years in all sorts of weird ways. So like, I don't know if that's true because like, I mean,
it makes sense, but there was I remember when that was happening. I don't remember that it happened to the US Open, but when I was racing, there was all these rumors that
it was nuts.
they weren't going to let us do even like say a street race or whatever. Like, geez, guys. Anyway, yeah. So
but they were using it at that point to try to control riders.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
to control athletes. So we just like trial by fire, like right then and there, we became USA Cycling sanctioned, and
in that week, like on the Tuesday.
yeah, I love this story. There was a guy who was working at USA Cycling at the time, Chuck Hodge, and Chuck was just like kind of an old cowboy, and he's still around, but he's left USA Cycling. He's like semi-retired, I guess you would say now. And I got his number because I'd done in those years after I was at Mountain Creek, I started running USA Cycling events for them. It's funny, I'm running the biggest unsanctioned event, but I'm also running Pro GRTs at Mountain Creek, at Killington, helping start the Windrock one with Nico and Sean. And so like I had developed a relationship with the events director there, Chuck. And so I have his number and I called him. It was like 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday or Wednesday of event week. And he just answers the phone and he's like, "Do you got a beeper on this thing?" He goes, "I already told him to get the fuck out of our country." And I'm like, "All right." He goes, "You're all USA Cycling now." I said, "Okay, like we're here." And so we, it may sound like it happened right on the spot, but there was a lot of relationship building prior to that. Like I'd done a lot of work for them. I was like, when they wanted to put a Pro GRT at Killington, like I came up and just helped run the event for free. I was like, "Just put me up, give me lodging," because I was like trying to rebuild myself in the event space because I'd taken all that time off. And so it was there. But so we hold that event. It's great. And then 2018 US Open, we tried to do 2019. We didn't want to leave here. And some things that happened ownership-wise here, they changed ownership. It's always tough when you're
it seems like this out of your control. Like
it totally is. When you're a third-party event, it is what it is. Luckily, there's plenty of venues. It's like other fish in the sea, right? So they wound up doing some big capital improvement stuff here, which is sick. It's why the place is so nice. But during that period, we wound up going out to Snow Summit, and we struck a deal with them, a 3-year deal. 2019 US Open was really good there. Like it was a great event. And then COVID hits, we get canceled, and then we try to come back in 21, and the whole place gets shut down for wildfires. So we took 2 years off. It was like almost 1,000 days between events, and we came back in 22 here with the US Open at Killington, and then we've been here since. So.
Yeah, because I remember the Snow Summit one. I was like, "Damn, that's a good idea. That's cool that it's there." And then naively just didn't know why it wasn't happening the next 2 years, and now you're telling the story like so much out of your control.
Yeah, it was.
So that's like bringing us up to 2022. Then
that's probably the fastest I've ever told that story on a podcast. It's late.
I think the context is you've been at it the whole year, weeks, years on end, and we said we were going to do this pod. And your crew is got a lot of content they want to put out. And we started recording like after 9 p.m. after you've had a full day.
Yeah.
you've literally taken, and it was pissing rain the whole day. So that always adds to it. So like props to you for wanting to do this, as well as like I can just hear the passion you have for like, you just feel like you're meant to be in mountain biking, meant to be in like event organization. Like you just have this will to do it.
Yeah, you're right. I guess like I've done a lot.
Whether it's the smartest thing or not, like it just seems inside you like this makes you happy, or like you feel fulfilled being involved in like putting on these events.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of other stuff, you know, since you know, my early 20s. I've worked in the trades. I've been an excavator, like always skimmed over a lot of the parts like when I wasn't doing it. You know, worked in the trades, electrician, excavator. I've been a licensed insurance agent, a stockbroker, like junior stockbroker. Don't worry, I didn't make any money. You know, I've worked in resort. I've done so much stuff, and I just always kind of come back to it, you know. And that's why I said, like, I wish I could go back. I wish I could have like the mindset I have now when I was 23 and I started it. This thing would be massive.
Yeah, but we all play that game. I'm
Right.
like, oh, if you could go back and have the knowledge and the bank account, and then go back to be 21.
I think my bank account when I was
interested.
Well, I think my bank account when I was 26 was
Bigger than it is now.
Bigger as now, but that was I was flipping houses and owning that bike store, and like if you were just like in the economy in the U.S. in 2006, I mean, you could sell ice to Eskimos. Like there's a reason we had that big crash.
Yeah,
It was
just bound to happen.
Yeah, and
just
like
people just giving money away.
Oh, it was nuts. Like, I mean, yeah, we probably shouldn't go like deep into it, but like it was crazy. Like what the banks gave me as a 23-year-old to start that business. Like it was freaking nuts. And I paid the price. Like I paid it big time, you know, and I don't blame anybody else as my own.
Yeah, they did it. Well, I guess they didn't. They never do.
No, they never do.
bailed
Yeah,
out.
they never do.
It's always the small guy, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's gnarly when you go through a huge loss like that. So
What like maybe before we get to like the present of the series and all that, like what life lessons are you bringing into like today's Clay that maybe other people could like resonate with? Because like you've seen and done a lot.
Yeah.
Like what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Patience. I think I probably
Is that what you learned?
the billionth person on earth to say that, but just patience, you know, like everything can't happen overnight. Somebody said something to me a while back. I love sayings. Like I have everybody who knows me, like, oh, another saying. Like I could never write them all down if I had to, but they always come to you. And somebody said to me, everyone overestimates what they can accomplish in 12 months or a year, and everyone underestimates what they can accomplish in 3 years and 5 years.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
And if you don't stick with it, you don't get to enjoy that. You know what I mean? Like,
interesting, yeah.
And so many times, like I've started other businesses, I've done other things, and I just didn't stay through that hard part in the beginning. But then it just becomes a lot easier when you're older. You just have a longer vision, right? So like right now, like we're like literally building a series, you know, like that's what we're doing. And so 23-year-old me wouldn't have had the patience or the like, how do you say it? Like the depth of ability, like the ability to have a depth of priorities. Like just looking across this like field of a million things that have to happen, and you know you are not going to be able to complete every one of those, and you just need to constantly be working on everything and pushing everything forward and be patient with the things that don't work. That's the biggest thing. Like, I mean, sometimes people say something funny to me. It's like, I'm in this quasi-public position now, right? Like I'm like a commissioner of a sports league, essentially. And it's like, it's cool and I enjoy it, but I know that like the reason I'm here is just like a sum of all the things I failed at, right? Like all the things I failed at, whether it was like being a pro biker or the first time I started the US Open or owning these stores or doing this or doing that. So you just can't be afraid to fail. Like I don't think about that, but like when you ask like what's the difference, you know, when you're in your 20s, like you're afraid to fail, you know, and you're just overthink everything, and then you don't have the patience to see it through, so they like kind of fight against each other.
And like what you say, like you overestimate what you can do. You try to take on so much, and like you don't know how to prioritize, or just like you say, be patient. Because if you just push yourself and it's like those incremental gains, or like if you're 1% better every day or 1% better every year, like it's compound. It's like compound interest in finance.
Yeah.
It's like if you just keep doing, you keep pushing
Little by little.
Through failure. Okay, that door's really shut. I'm gonna go down this door. Like, but that's where experience comes from. Like you can't buy experience.
No.
You can't buy wisdom.
No.
Wisdom comes from failures. Wisdom comes from hard work, trying, banging your head. Same as when you were racing. Same as when I was racing. Like, failed way more than I succeeded. But the reason
everybody
you have the
who's good at
opportunity-
anything.
Yeah. So it's pretty great, and that's good. Yeah, I wouldn't have taken that lesson. Like I didn't know you were going to say patience. I thought you were going to say something else. Like,
No,
what did you
no.
learn after all these years of like knocking your head and patience? And yeah, everyone can use a bit of that. And like that builds resilience. If you're like, you don't know what you can achieve in 10 years. You can be amazed if you just keep doing little things.
Mm-hmm.
And you add it all up in 10 years, you'll be like, wow.
If
you try to do everything in a day, it's like a to-do list in a day. Like that's just a bad strategy.
Exactly. And you have to, like, with that, like, I guess what it is I work mostly with younger people, right? Like, look at the sport we're in, right? Like, it's funny. I have this like band from kids to adults that work with me. Like that's funny. A lot of the 15 and 16-year-old kids work for me. Like all the Cat 1 racers, like there's so many of these kids that work for me. They love it. And they're all hard workers. And they think I'm like a grandpa. You know, I laugh because I'm still like, oh, let's go ride. And they're like, yeah, whatever, dude. But
I rode with these kids.
They're nasty.
It was eye-opening.
Yeah. But what's funny is with that whole patience thing is like becoming comfortable with chaos and knowing not everything is going to be perfect. I used to get so hung up on details that you couldn't just move forward when something wasn't perfect. And as soon as I stopped doing that, like things really started to happen.
Do you know the saying for that? Done is better than perfect.
Yes, I love that one.
Yeah.
Every time, because perfect never happens.
That's true.
And like, I think that what we're doing has like a shiny appearance to the outside, like Monster Energy Pro Downhill Series. There's so many things on the inside that are a mess. So many things that don't happen the way we want them to happen. But if everybody involved just wants the product to be the best it can be at the end of the day, it's like when we don't hit our mark in one spot, or we don't accomplish this, or we can't get that done, or this falls through, but everybody's pushing so hard to make everything good, it's great. It's fine. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people, the younger guys I work with, I see get hung up on stuff. And I'm always, it's funny, like you wouldn't think,
Or
like
guiding them, like it's okay.
yeah, or being like,
Finish
it's fine, fuck it. You know, like you wouldn't think like the guy in charge who's like financially responsible for this would be like the most okay with the failures. Like I'm the most okay when something's messed up in our business.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean like you don't want,
Of course.
like a rarely polished product. But I guess you're just realistic. Like if you're painting a house and there's that one spot, like you might notice it, but maybe it doesn't really affect the whole product.
But if you don't get the whole house painted because you were just working on that one spot, everyone sees the other spots you missed.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Right?
that's a good point.
So
yeah.
like, and that's been the biggest thing with this series, like to jump into this and like, you know, I started this project, this vision, just thinking we're going to do this and everything's going to be perfect. And we're exceeding any expectations I had, but there's a lot of chaos to it. A lot of chaos.
I can imagine.
Like a lot of failures, like we try this, we bought that, we have this tool, we did this branding, this stuff, we wasted money on that, this didn't work, that didn't work. We went to a new venue, we spent 3 times as much on lodging because we didn't do it the right way. Like a lot of stuff doesn't work right, and you pay for it all, but like knowledge is never free, like you said. So.
Yeah. They say like the upfront like effort is really, really big. And then you'll get to a certain point where you're getting so much out of doing way less effort, but the upfront, unfortunately, has to be done.
100%. And it's really been wild because just even this first year, the upfront is diminishing. Like the amount, like when I went like 5 years of the only, like I was, so during that period before I started the Pro Downhill Series, I was doing a lot of like moonlighting, like working for other mountain bike parks, helping them run their events in addition to mine. I did some projects for other, just other brands. I did some consulting for YT. Like I did a lot of stuff, but like we just had this one big event, the US Open. And it was such it was like starting a giant bulldozer that sits out in the yard all year long, and you start it once a year. And now it's like, is running, like the tracks are oiled, the engine's running. And so like, as we go through a season, everything gets better. So like, I don't like, for instance, we were just talking today about this, like my wife, Jamie, and then Jess, who's like just an absolute rock star. And the two of them together just took over everything athlete registration for me. And as soon as that happened, it's like, ooh, it's systematized, everything rolls, it works, and you just don't really look back. We were just talking about it today. Like, they checked in 400 and some odd athletes today, not a single hitch, not a single problem. And it's like, that didn't happen in our past events. You know,
So
it was
it's
always a
almost
shit
like
show.
having 4 events makes it easier
Totally.
than having like one.
Yes, because it's always
You're just
running.
like,
yes.
You're getting reps. It's always running, and you're
Exactly.
refining the process.
Exactly.
That's pretty ironic, eh?
It's really
like having
crazy.
more events makes your life easier than having one.
100%.
That's
100%.
insane.
Yeah. And like Jess and Jamie they're such the unsung heroes of this thing. Like everybody wants to always talk to me and, oh, Clay, and what are you doing and how this and that. We wouldn't have a race if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Like if I laugh because it's like, I always say to people, like, if all the lawyers in the world didn't show up to work tomorrow and all the garbage men didn't show up to work tomorrow, who would you notice missing first?
Probably the garbage man.
Exactly. And like tomorrow at Pro Downhill Series, like if Clay didn't show up or if Jess and Jamie didn't show up, who would you notice first missing? It's not Clay.
Yeah, there's no race plates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So there's just like the work they put in. I just don't think it gets recognized, and they don't want it. Like if you ask them to come sit here with you, they'd say no.
I have to tell you about AG1. You are probably not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and you know it. I've always taken my health seriously during my racing days and even now, but I often miss the mark on nutrition, especially when I'm traveling or busy. AG1 makes the best daily foundational nutrition supplement that I have ever found. One scoop of AG1 contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including multivitamins, prebiotics, probiotics, and more, all of which work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet and increase energy and focus. They also aid with digestion and support a healthy immune system, all without the need to take multiple products or pills. I seriously look forward to in the morning. It takes all of 60 seconds to mix and drink. Best of all, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you're skeptical or not sure, you can just buy it and try it for 3 full months. And if you don't like it for any reason, they will give your money back. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Right now, try AG1 and get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/moving the needle. That's a $48 value for free if you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle or by going to the link in the show notes below. No, yeah. I mean, it's oversubscribed. Your wife was telling me, like,
oh, this event,
like,
yeah.
Like feels so sad, like she's having to turn people away. Yeah. You guys are oversubscribed for time in the day and running the event currently. Like, that's really amazing. It's like, that's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem,
but like a bitter pill for them. She's like, it sucks because she knows, like, there's certain kids that just didn't register on time, and you know, whether it's, you know, it's just out of your guys' control as well.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I'll tell you, I said, I always wanted to like sell it out. It'd be great. You're on easy street. Like when you actually hit max capacity with an event, and we went through like a really big dip, you know, like we could talk about that. Like the history of mountain bike, we're a young sport, but like the history of mountain bike racing and the boom in the late 90s, early 2000s, to the dip, to the dark period of like the early teens in the US. And now it's like the business is strong, and it's great that, not the business, but like the sport is strong, and it's great. Like this bubble of kids that's coming up is wild, how many there are and how good they are. And I never thought I'd say this, but like, man, this has been the biggest blessing and a curse, having these numbers at this event. You know, like, I mean, just, I guess, so whoever's listening to this can understand, like, we have a cap on the US Open, and we hit that cap weeks ago, and the cap is set for amateurs so that we can continue to get the pros in. So we have basically 500 people is like the most you can responsibly run down the hill in a day with the format we have.
Yes.
You could lower the quality of like the big pro race, but like for the prize money and the investment and the partners, like we have to maintain the sanctity of like that moment. Like when you see finals, like a lot goes into that. And 500, like that's it. So we put a cap of 350, and we try to be super transparent with everything we do. Like it's kind of like a little bit of our shtick too. Like people can find me, you can talk to me, I'll answer questions, and we don't really hide much. And the cap of 350 was hit in the amateurs, which leaves us about 150 to work with on the open class side. And then we always have a few that we need to like save space for. Like for instance, like we work with David Lieb on this free rider class. We got like Nikolai Rogatkin and David Lieb and Christian Earhart. I can't even remember who all's in it this year. I don't even know if I've seen the full list. Like something they just
I haven't
handled.
even looked at that either. Good
Yeah,
point.
I don't think most people know, but it was David and Nikolai, and then they blew it up into a full class this year, so it's going to be cool. But with that, we hit that 500 really quick, and we have a massive open class, the biggest open class we've had since we brought it back. We have almost 120 pro men in it, 40 some odd pro women. So like we even exceeded the 150 we left for us there, and everybody's like, "Oh, just add me," and it's like, "Whoa, I want to, I really do."
Yeah.
But we only have so much daylight, and we have to be safe too. Like safety's huge for us. We put so much effort into making sure we're safe, and so like it just gets hard, like to run a safe race in our format, which we have our own formula. Like we have our own start list. You'll see. I could walk you through the run of show, and like Jess has really developed this, where we have like breaks for reruns, scheduled times for like announcers to do this and that. Like we've really developed a run of show that's like, we try to use the same one every event, and it works well. And we just can't exceed it. That's it, you know? And
if
then
you added another day, that adds like pretty exponential costs, right? Like, 'cause some people are like, "Oh, can't we race another day?" But then you got to like get here earlier.
it's not,
It's a big cost to add another day of practice, and then like have some racing on this day, and like it's not that simple.
it's not that
right?
simple.
Like,
And so we are going to do that. Like we have to do that. But we couldn't just do it once we were locked and loaded for this year.
yes, of course. Yeah.
Like this is unprecedented. We've never been in this situation. Now I know that like the pro downhill series leading into the US Open is like we're marketing all year long for the US Open. So like in hindsight, it's easy to say like, oh, we should have seen this coming. But the energy like coming out of the pro downhill series into the US Open is nuts. Like we've never had this where like 100 17, 18-year-old kids want to get in, 100 15, 16-year-old kids want to get in. Like that's just hasn't happened.
Where are these kids coming from? That's so cool. It's
From
amazing.
everywhere in the United States to Canada to New Zealand to the UK to Germany, South America. Like it is insane how international the field is for this event now.
Yeah.
In the amateur side too, it's crazy. And so what my wife was referring to, what Jamie was referring to, is just like, it's like heartbreaking to tell all these people no. And then I'm like when you asked me, oh, is it on your Instagram? And I'm like, I can't even go on my Instagram because like I'm just getting blown up. Like I've, between text messages, DMs, and emails, hundreds of messages from people. And it's like, I just can't deal with it. Like I can't get to each person. I can't do it. And so that's the part that's like, it's bittersweet. It's like, it's not quite what we want. But looking ahead, we ultimately want to go to that 2-day event for sure. And, like a definitive difference between the way we do things and say a World Cup is similar to like a motocross style. And I reference this all the time. Like we really copy a lot from that sport just because I'm a fan of it, but it works. We want to continue to maintain the ability to have really high level pro racing and amateur racing together. And so putting them in the same venue on the same weekend, but a day apart, is the ultimate answer of where we'll get. So let's just say, I don't know who would go first, Saturday versus Sunday, but like, I think we would probably try to do pros on Saturday. So it would be like the pros typically they're not worried about missing work. So like they can be there for a Wednesday track walk, Thursday practice, Friday qualifying, Saturday race, and then the AMs just start everything a day later. There's opportunity to do it, but you got a contract with a mountain, you have plans, you have only so much financing, and people who have committed to your race early, committed to one product, you can't just go and tell them like, oh, by the way, now you got to be here a day earlier because a whole bunch of other people want to race too. So we had to stick to what our original plan was.
Yeah, definitely.
It's okay.
So how do you feel it's gone this year?
The series?
The series. Because, the US Open is incredible and it's huge and the prize money is ridiculous, 15 grand, both men and women. As you were talking about the US Open, I was like, shit, imagine like, because I follow golf a lot, and I'm like, US Open's got a cool ring to it. US Open tennis, US Open golf, is that probably US Open surfing? I don't know. There should be a British Open mountain biking. There should be a
Let's
US
do it.
Open.
I'll help.
Yeah, exactly. It would be cool if there are a bunch of these like standalone events. But anyway, back to the series, because you have the series as well, which is amazing. So how do you feel it's gone? It's gone.
It's going great. But to sidebar what you said, that was where I started. That was the business plan for the US Open when I came back in 2017 with it. Is we really wanted to, how could we get the World Cup to include the US Open but not steal its identity, And we spent a couple of years working on that, and conversations with UCI and even conversations with Warner Brothers as they came in, and it just never resonated. Like the I guess people who have been in charge, for lack of a better phrase, the people who have been in charge of World Cup racing, like the custodians of World Cup racing over the past decade to now, just aren't interested in what you just said. But I am, because I use golf as the best reference. You have to look at sports that have monetized better. Like when people want to look at mountain biking and then try to make comparisons to other mountain biking and figure out how we do this with only looking at mountain biking, we're not going anywhere. It's like, for me, it's funny, golf and moto are the two sports I look the most at.
Their systems like seem to work well, And I think they're the closest to relate to.
And they're individual athletes. Yeah. Sometimes there's teams, but you still compete individually. They both involve a lot of similar characteristics, but those two are both monetized like wildly better than mountain biking. And not to say that mountain biking is going to be, have the prize purses of golf or moto ever. Probably not. You can learn a lot from it and follow from it.
You can. Like I was having a dinner conversation. We were like, but why do you can sell the title sponsor of the series, but you can also sell different sponsors to different events in different locations.
Exactly. And
so,
and so we always wanted to try to figure out how to get the US Open to be part of the World Cup, but it just wasn't going to be, And I was told, I was at the table one time with them and told like, yeah, sure, but you just got to ditch the name and, make it World Cup stop number 7. And I was like, we're never going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to give up the 20 years of work that's gone into building this brand. So the goal then switched from like, how do we take the US Open and push it up to a larger like global series? Like, let's just turn and look the other way. And how do we take the US Open and use it as the gravity, it as the anchor, and build a series that goes into it? And that's how we came to do this. As we started down that process, it's like, okay, this could also be the national series for the US. So it's like, we make it the national series for the US. there was a definite change in the way events are structured and owned in the U.S. over the past decade to this. Pro GRT is something that most people racing now can remember, and it was a pro gravity racing tour, which was basically a umbrella that USA Cycling put over top of a handful of independently owned events. But then you have all different infrastructure, all different, not rules per se, but all different set of standards for each race.
Yeah.
Track markings are different. The registration system's different. The prize money is different. The quality of the event is different. And each event has like a dozen or more stakeholders of their own, from like, all right, you got the event director, you got the marketing director at the resort, you got the lift maintenance or the lift operations director that doesn't want to go into overtime so you can start practice a day early. You got just like all these different stakeholders, and you can never get sponsors aligned over multiple events because every ownership's different. And that's why, you know, the past 15 years in the US, mountain bike downhill racing has been like fun and good, but it's never been able to really take off like we're seeing now. And so what we did was we just kind of had to wrangle it and take the risk and just say, like, we'll own the events. Like, we're going to own each event top to bottom. We're going to find the sponsorship that wants to be part of this, and we're going to go and deal with negotiating individual venue fees and figure it all out and run it this kind of like in a really like American way, like a business that like sink or swim. There's no handouts.
Seem to be swimming.
We're swimming.
Is it
the seas are rough, but we're swimming.
Chaotic underneath, calm on top.
We're always referring to stuff. You ever see that one where it's like what people see, and it's like an iceberg, little tip sticking out of the water, but then it's like what they don't see, and it's the giant iceberg under the water. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, we started this series, and right off the bat, Nico Malala. So Nico and I have been friends for years now, and I've helped him with a lot of stuff, starting Windrock and his any really big races he's done in the U.S. I've been part of, just helping him one way or the other, whether I'm the race director or behind the scenes. And so when we said we're going to do this series, like, we had wanted to use Windrock, but Windrock had just changed hands. And the reason we wanted to use Windrock is the Tennessee National is a epic U.S. national race. It has history. I helped start it with Nico and Sean, and right when we did this, that was when the park switched hands and Aaron took over the park, Aaron Gwynn, with a bunch of Red Bull partnership money involved in the park and contracts and all this. And so we're sponsored by Monster, and it just wasn't going to work. So Nico stepped up, and we knew we needed a southeast venue because the southeastern United States, if you don't know, your audience, a lot of them are in the States, it's just electric. Like, it's the most up-and-coming downhill community that I've seen in 20 years. Yeah. It's crazy what they've built down there. And so we quickly just put together a deal to put the first stop at his new park, Rock Creek. And that event was amazing. Like, you want to talk about a shit show. Like, back of house for that one.
What, getting ready and just like...
Oh, gosh. Like,
so
I drove... So one of the things I got to do with this series, I got to buy like an F450, which is a pickup truck I've always wanted, because I had to buy this giant 40-foot gooseneck trailer to tow stuff and do all this. And so I get this truck, and I drive to Wisconsin to get timing equipment and a U-Haul trailer. Then I drive down to Missouri, and I get this big trailer transfer. I drive all the way back to New Jersey where I live. Then we drive down to the event. We haul everything under the sun we need for this event. We worked 24/7. Like, we were just nocturnal setting that event up. Like, this is the first time setting up this trussing we got. This is the first time figuring out how this goes together. Like, first time doing a lot of the stuff that was like, yeah, we knew it from US Open, but we had never had to take it on the road like that. And like inefficiencies, you want to talk about chaos and inefficiencies. Oh my gosh. The cleanup from that, first of all, the race was amazing, but the cleanup from it we just worked through the night. Like we worked till the sun came up, cleaning up from that race. Like now we've got it down to where like in a couple hours we got to figure it out the night of the race, you know. But it was good. It was really exhausting but good, and people were hyped. Like just the imagery of it, everything we do. We work with Gravity Cooperative on this race show that we do. That you know that those are the guys filming this for us today.
Yeah,
they do
big shout out, huge shout out.
Exactly, GCO, and they did like this, just worked with me on this idea that I had. But first of all, they did the whole show and all that, but I had this idea for doing like a full-blown press conference at the end of the race. I wanted to do it with the U.S. Open, but like just never had like the organization or the nuts to just do it. And it was like halfway through the race week, and we had talked about it, and I was like, we're just doing it. Like win, lose, or draw, like who cares if it sucks? Like if we don't start it with the first race, we might never do it this year. And so we just like put this press conference together. It came out sick, and just started the ball with it. And everybody was like, this is amazing. So like the imagery of what we do looked different than what people had seen. It's very similar to a lot of motorsports, like the way it comes across on the camera with our branding and our setups and stuff like that. And then from there, we rolled into Mountain Creek, classic venue. I've been doing races there since the 90s and started the U.S. Open there in 03. And that was amazing. George and the crew there crushed it. That track came together. That was a like behind the scenes, that was like a really tough track build. Like the goal was to like not run the same track they'd been running, so it put a pretty heavy lift on those guys, and we routed this thing out with like hitting some of the spots we wanted to on the mountain that we knew were good, but then leaving some like in between spots. They're like, we'll figure it out. And like those guys burned the midnight oil. Got that track together, had a great race there. That one was odd because it was so close to my home. You know, I thought it was going to be easy, but it wasn't. And then we took the road show all the way to California, which was cool. Back at Snow Summit for same place we were with the U.S. Open in 2019, and got to work with the crew there. Big shout out to like Ryan Wormsbecker and his crew. We took a track that was what I would call like marginally ready for us, you know, for what we demand, with like widening it and safety features and B-netting and pads and all this, and worked with them to turn this thing into just a gem. Like the track rode so well.
Yeah, it looked good on camera too.
It
huh?
was sick, yeah.
Like fast, and the response from the riders seemed they were pumped.
It was amazing, yeah. And that's something that like, you know, is worth noting. We don't we don't look at things necessarily the same way they do in Europe. Like I'm less concerned with the track being hard. Like I don't care if people say it's too easy. It's about making it good for racing. Lots of lines, the ability for athletes to make the right decisions to gain time. Track walk is super important. You need to see the ruts. You need to see where you're going, see what lines you're taking, and like create a whole chess game, not just everybody racing down the same line. And like this track here for the U.S. Open, I mean, it's not a steep track. It's not a long track. It gets people always want to talk shit about it, but the reality is every time we come here and we build it, you know, we say build it. We take a trail that they run all the time. We build it into a racetrack, and dude, this track delivers. The Snow Summit track though, it was just like nobody had put on a real high-level downhill race in the Southeast or Southwest in quite a long time. And so we turned heads. It was good.
Yeah, really good. And I guess a little bit is because amateurs come out and race, so you have to keep it realistic for the masses. Right?
That's a factor. It
like
is.
It is a little factor. It's not really like amateurs that can't ride. Like amateurs are the amateur category, but like they're incredibly talented.
It's definitely it runs the gamut. You know, you get everything. It is a little bit part of it, but we are willing to do like different lanes. Like this race, for instance.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess you.
Like
can do
we had to
go-arounds
separate. Yeah, we had to separate some of it, but we try to give the amateurs as much of the main track as possible, so they want to move up. You know what I mean? How else are they going to get to? But a lot of it has to do just what we work with. Like, bike parks in America aren't like, they are not, they just don't have the same level of just crazy natural trails that we see in a lot of the steep old mountains in Europe. And
Yeah.
I don't know, you can blame it on liability. I don't know what you blame it on, but it doesn't matter though. Like, it's just what we have to work with, and the racing is so good. And we have like really tight races too. Like on Sunday, the times here, I'm guessing, are going to be really tight, because the ability to, like the ability for the track to separate riders isn't there as much as it is for the riders to be competing against each other. And to me, I think that's sick.
Yeah, I mean, it makes for exciting racing, definitely. I mean, it's crazy to see how close racing is, even on, say, an easier track or something. Like, it just blows my mind. I mean, World Champs was ridiculous, right? And it's probably going to be similar time gaps, you know?
Yeah, I think that we could see, 100th of a second win. Like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me. Timer's got a hard job.
Well, this is coming out afterwards, but what's the winning time going to be?
I don't know. That's a good
How
question.
long is this track?
It's like mid-twos, but we've sped it up a little. We straightened it in a few spots.
So it's running faster.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to put a time on the record, because I have not checked it all, but I don't want to sound like an idiot.
No, you won't. It's coming out afterwards, and it'll just be like a fun guess.
I have no idea. I don't know.
And you're running dual slalom here as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we're running.
Sounds like a headache. But
Well,
dual
that's what
slalom's great.
That's what we were doing.
Speaking of,
That's what we were
make
doing here.
dual slalom great again. Like,
That's what we were doing out there tonight in the rain. The rain just really damaged the track a lot. We got a lot of rain today.
did it? But I mean, I guess they're practicing tomorrow, because
8 a.m.
the weather's going to be better. for
Yeah,
the
I think
rest
the
of week.
downhill track's gonna be
It's going to be,
dialed.
dude,
Oh,
it's going to be like ridiculously fast
It's
by the
gonna be
time it dries out.
awesome. Yeah, you'll have traction, but it'll be fast. Slalom, on the other hand, is gonna be a little wet tomorrow.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, they were out there digging drains, and the berms. Like, some of the berms have big puddles.
Picture this. You're straightening the gnarliest trails, wind in your hair, adrenaline pumping, and then it hits you. You need to tame the beast below the belt. That's where MANSCAPED comes in. With their cutting-edge technology and precision engineering, you can groom with the same confidence you take on those downhill descents. It's the holiday season, folks. For some, it's the most wonderful time of the year. For others, it's just another round of dodging awkward questions about your love life and trying not to look like you just crawled out of a cave. Enter the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra by MANSCAPED to save your dignity this holiday season. Don't be that family member who shows up solo and scruffy to yet another holiday gathering. Get your overgrowth under control with a Weed Whacker 2.0 and let the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra help you seal the deal. Whether it's at the office party, a family dinner, or your next big adventure. Join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to help keep their grooming game strong. Head over to manscaped.com and use the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE for 20% off and free shipping. Now, we've all been there, and if you haven't, consider yourself lucky. You're about to groom in places you'd rather not talk about. And oops, you've got a grooming mishap on your hands. Not with Manscaped. With their design built to reduce the risk of accidents, you'll groom with confidence. And it's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower too. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is your ultimate holiday helper. It's everything you need for below. The waist maintenance. It takes care of those rogue nose and ear hairs. Think of it as your seasonal survival kit, keeping you clean, confident, and ready to crush cuffing season and every festive gathering ahead. And here's the best part. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra doesn't just stop at the essentials. It also includes 2 holiday bonuses. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag. These premium extras will make sure you're always ready to jingle and mingle, whether at home or on the go. So if you want to look and feel your best out on the trail or outshine your weirdo uncle who's still rocking that goatee from 1985 and claim your spot at the top of the sibling power rankings, Manscaped is for you. As I said, get 20% off and free shipping with the code MOVINGTHENEEDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code MovingTheNeedle at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way. How many people on payroll, but like how many people are like permanent in your team?
No one is permanent. Everybody is.
Everyone's subcontract.
Yeah, everyone's part time and helps. Everybody has to have their normal jobs.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's where we're starting.
4-race series, and you've just
I think
making it work.
Yeah, I mean, me,
bootstrapping.com, huh?
Exactly, but our saying is like, by any means. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like everybody on our team is like really down for the cause. Like it's hard to express to somebody who doesn't understand like the love of it, like to be able to be like, like last night, myself and a handful of us, we were up till 2:15 working on stuff, just because it has to get done. Like we don't have a lot of people, it just has to get done. I don't want to run like that forever, but it's what we need to do to get off the ground.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely get to the point where we have full-time employees, but right now it's just not an option. There's no financing for it. It's not an option. So it's tough. It is tough. Like I don't want to complain about it, but
No, it's not. But I think it's special. Like I see like your son and his friends, like, they're getting to ride their bikes all around the country, but they're also like helping. And I think that's really good for them in general. And you say you got families here and they come up and they cook. Your mother-in-law.
My parents are here. My wife's parents are here.
I think that's really special.
Working.
Like it's a family affair. And yeah, I mean, it's good to just like shed light on that because they just see this amazing logo on your shirt and be like, oh my goodness. And yeah, they are kicking in money, don't get me wrong. That's why there's prize money. That's why there's amazing course, safety, all these things. But like, yeah, I hope people will just like stop and appreciate every organizer out there and you, like, because we're all quick to bitch and moan. Like I've been there myself, like as a racer, this isn't good enough, this is bad. It's like, yeah, fair enough. Let's try to take the feedback on, but like it takes so much to get these things off the ground.
And it really comes down to heart, right? Like there's times I think when you as an athlete have a valid complaint against somebody who's like taking the money and their heart's not in the right place. Yeah. But like I'll meet every complainer head on because like we're balls to the wall. Like there is no lack of investment from any person involved in this brand, in this pro downhill series. And man, it's a bike race, first of all, right? We're not trying to, like, we're not government
putting
workers.
A man on the moon.
Yeah, and we're not government workers. We don't owe anybody anything. Your tax dollars didn't pay for this, like,
Yeah.
And so it's like when people come at us with like this should be this way or what's wrong with you or this or that, usually after 20 minutes of talking to that person, they become some of our biggest proponents. It's funny. So Cash Shaleen is this really fast up-and-coming 15-16 racer. I'm a huge fan of the kid. All these Cat 1 15-16 kids, the boys and the girls, they're awesome. They're like here to change the game, and they don't even know it. I get so stoked hanging out with these kids. Seriously, like living vicariously through them too, because like my son's in that group and like they're all around all the time. Our condo's full of these kids. They're helping with a lot of work, but I'm helping them travel. I'm putting them up. I'm paying for their food. They help me, so I help them. And their work ethic is sick. Like it's crazy how hard these kids work. And I think it's because they didn't get to the point where they didn't want to have a work ethic, right? Like it's pretty interesting. Like at the end of a race, this group of Cat 1 15-16 kids that hangs out to help me, they're like putting down pro times and then hanging out till dark helping tear down the venue, and like I don't get that from a lot of people. There's not a lot of adults hanging out doing that, but the group that you went out with yesterday, so it was like my son Zach and then Kai Burleson and Colton Hubbard and Sully Nataro was in there. I don't remember who all was in that group.
And
Ryder Lawrence was there. Ryder Lawrence had just gotten here. He hasn't been here working all week.
Yeah, fair enough.
But those other kids, dude, they all came in last week and have been just grinding away on
since
stuff.
Then, really, yeah.
Yeah, and
that's cool to see.
It's awesome, and they love it. they love it. Cash is usually part of the group, but he actually had an off-road race, so he was doing that. And then even on the girls' side too, like I said, like Eris Van Leuven and Victoria Zanoni, like they were both in the yurt building we have there, that weird little building where we store stuff. They were in there with Jess and Jamie for hours, helping sticker number plates and stuff yesterday. They're all have like a keen interest in seeing like behind it and how it works, which is cool because we need them to be invested in this. Like we're building this for it to be their series, for them to have a career in. Like this is a place where we want them to have a career and not have to get like shipped off to Europe if they want a career, right? Like these are American kids growing up here, and sure, if they want to race around the world, that's great, but they also could race right here.
Is that like crystal ball one of your goals? That people like the industry takes notice, which I think they are already, as another place to earn a living racing bikes?
Yes. And you know, it's not, a lot of people want to position me as like, oh, against World Cup. It's not that at all. Not at all. I was just talking about this with Wynn earlier today. I think he recorded this conversation. But basically, we're, you know, there's two types of people in the world. Those who want to take it from others and those who want to just go get their own and build it. And like, that's what we're doing. We're not, I don't have a horse in the race in World Cup, right? Like, I think it's great. I'm a huge fan of it. I even think a lot of the changes they're making are good. Like, people probably mad at me for saying that. Like, I think they have to do a lot of what they're doing. They're a business too, and you know, it'd be fun maybe over a beer we could talk about. It makes perfect sense how they got to where they got, going through this dip in the industry, and then Red Bull coming in and them taking all comers and every privateer to the World Cup level and all this, and their model's just not set up for it. You know, like traveling globally and all that, it's not set up to have every single person be able to get into it. So I get it, it's fine, but I don't really care what they do. It doesn't necessarily impact me. So, you know, I like to just state that, like, we're not here to do any sort of battle with World Cup, not at all. No such thing. But we're also not here to build a feeder series. So are we one now? Sure, people are using it. I mean, the World Cup is still more important for athlete contracts. It's still the most important race series in the world, without a doubt. And so I'd be a fool if I tried to say it wasn't, or that we were more important. And we're years away from being equal to them. But ultimately, that's the goal, like to just be a series that does its own thing. We have our own venues. We're in our own continent here, and we work with our brands. Racing is marketing, so we work with our brand partners to create coverage and create opportunities for them and athletes, and just working for the athletes to buy into this too. And ultimately, it's about creating this new economy, or, well, not new, but another economy for racing.
Yeah, but it seems racing. Like you're happy to grow the pie.
Of course.
Like, I think that's what you're able to do and could do, is like, yeah, it's not just a small pie and you're like, give me a piece. I'll take some of the riders away from the World Cup. It's not about that. It's like,
no, and
from what I'm seeing is like, where are all these people coming from? Like, you're growing it. More people are going to get into the sport because of this. That's totally. Also what I'm seeing.
And there's more people getting into the sport, but how about there's just not enough. There's so many people in the sport already that's why World Cup is saying, like, hey, we need to back off our numbers so we can produce the show we want to, just on a different scale, obviously, but similar to us saying, like, sorry, we can't take any more racers this weekend. We have a product we need to produce. We owe it to our sponsors. We owe it to the other hundreds of people that paid their registration fee. It's the same for a World Cup. They want to do a product a certain way, and it involves not taking every single racer in. From, you know, their issues are different than ours because they don't deal with amateurs on theirs, but it just, you know, puts a lot of athletes in a position where they are really excited about what we're doing because we're a good opportunity for them, and that's perfect. I mean,
and what about if you want to race more than 8 times a year?
Well, there's that as well.
There's also that as well.
Yeah.
Or 9 if there's Worlds, and yes, we're hearing there might be more, and we've been saying it for how long. But even if you go to 10 and Worlds, still like 11 races, big races. between what, March, April, and now October.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that many races in like a 6-month span.
No, and they're really expensive too, each one of those. We also do work on being lower cost, right? Like one continental series, like you can do the whole thing in a truck if you wanted to.
All those mad trailers I've seen in the parking lot.
Yeah.
There's some big ass trailers.
Yeah,
man. Some people are into it.
Well, that's exciting to me because it's people invested in it, and they're buying these trucks and trailers. And
like the families. And we're like,
yeah,
we're going racing.
It puts a responsibility on us too. Like we feel like we need to deliver.
Yeah.
But like, there's just room. Like, look at motocross. Like, there's multiple big series. There's AMA Outdoor here. There's MXGP in Europe. There's athletes that have careers in both places. When people cross and race one series versus the other, it's exciting. People want to see it.
Yeah,
and
true.
So I think that the timing is just amazing that we came up with this. And at the same time, the biggest series in the world also wants to shed some of its athletes and not have as many. So we're here for it. This is the place for them to come race. As we build this series, I think those athletes, in some of them will come to this series and find what they've been looking for, get their leg up and fully develop, like you take a kid from Australia or a kid from the US or South America or somewhere, and it's like they need to go chase this mostly European series, and they're spending a ton of money. They're far from home. They're uncomfortable. They're out of their element, and they may be amazing riders, but they're getting over there and just not able to get the leg up and get in. And so now there's another place for them to try to do that too. We're only just going to see more athletes reach their full potential.
Yeah, that's well said. And another thing I was thinking about, speaking of motocross, like you're mixing Loretta Lynn's, that one, with like an AMA national. That's pretty like interesting.
You mean with the U.S. Open?
Well, just like
everything?
Because you've got amateurs and the pros. I don't know. I just thought about it now. I was like, you mentioned a bunch of the motocross series, but you've also got the amateur component.
I think that,
which is pretty cool.
I always reference the Loretta Lynn's thing too.
Yeah, it's like I can't even pronounce that right now.
It's tough.
Tongue tie for me.
It's a completely different business model that we have versus World Cup or IXS Cup or any of that, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, it's just what it is in America. It's a reason that those series don't necessarily always do well here either. Like World Cup struggles to get venues here because they come with a lot of costs and asks.
The business model, yeah.
Yeah, and the business model doesn't work for venues in a lot of cases, whereas we are way more nimble, way lower cost, and like we come in very like rifle focused on downhill. And so it's what we're doing. We're in a position to do it. And the like comparison back and forth between the two, I don't know how long I don't know if it's important or not. You know what I mean? Like for us to be worried about what they're doing versus just focused on what we're doing, right? And it's a battle we fight all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you manage that? Like, I guess in any business, like you do need to just focus on yourself and what you can control, same as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on what you're doing, what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, and decide, where to put your resources.
We don't have a lot of resources, so we know where they're going.
Yeah, but I mean, that makes you a tougher person. That makes you a more resilient series.
There's no fat in this operation.
Yeah.
So, and it's good, but we're happy to start it like that. And, super grateful for Monster and Fox and Continental. Like, those three companies have made this happen. The timing was perfect for this series. The build-up of athletes globally, but specifically in the U.S., this bubble of under 21 kids that are now riding. Like, our events are 60, 70% under 21 now. Like, it's all these kids. And so you got like that bubble coming up. And then you have the shift in like people's desire to travel globally and then to compete. And then you have World Cup refining their system to get to this like model that they want to have with less racers. All these things, just perfect timing for it. And the economy coming out of COVID, everything, it's not the perfect time for it. So like, you don't get everything. So we just like decided to do this like no matter what, and Monster came on board, and Monster believes in what we're doing. The guys in the sports marketing department there are so deeply like invested in racing. Like, look at what they do in other sports, right? They come in and they try to be very impactful to the sport. And so with that backing, and then Fox has been with the US Open since 2017, and then they've backed me on a lot of other stuff we've done. Like, getting in that Fox family has been huge for US Downhill, because like they've really given me a lot of the resources to do what I do, whether it's the US Open or another event I've done or this series now. And then Continental coming on as the presenting partner, which was a new relationship. I've never worked with them before on any business. But like those three coming in and backing this at a time when almost no other brands would, that's amazing. Like that is why we're here. And I hope that people understand that. Just like you say, hey, people should understand what people that work on events go through, and the staff and everything. You should also appreciate when you go to something that's rad and you can't believe, like, hey, how does this happen? It's because people in brand positions believe in it and put their marketing dollars behind it. And it's not necessarily talked about like that very often, but it's what it is. Racing's marketing.
No, it definitely is. And I'm having these conversations, and it's so fascinating, like how mountain biking is catching up to moto on turnover. How if you look at certain Instagram pages, i.e. Monster, go look at the views on the mountain bike and BMX content versus some of the other what are known as mainstream sports.
Mm-hmm.
So like the eyeballs are on these sports, like they look visually impressive. Like it just seems like a matter of time where it just like breaks through and becomes a little bit more mainstream.
Well, and it's nice. It's nice because this one is, and it's funny. I love talking about this stuff. Like, I have a whole timeline of mountain bike history in my head, from like how it was affected by the .com boom, to X Games putting us on snow, to action sports coming out of extreme sports and the marketing behind it. Like, you go through the whole thing, but the first big boom in mountain biking burned way faster and hotter than this one. And it was irresponsible, and it was like it was not, the custodians of the sport at the time weren't as like dedicated as myself and others like me who are involved in it now. And that slow build and that long steady burn, I think, is what we're in for now. It's like we're not trying to overcook it. We're not trying to like do what we did in 2001 with mountain biking. So that's a big difference too.
Yeah. So what if, like, as we wind down, like, is there anything you could shed light on for next year? Goals, adding venues, adding rounds. Like, is there anything you can speak to
for the Pro Downhill Series? Yeah. So we definitely need to add venues. Only 4 races this year. We're going to be at 5 or 6 next year. We're in talks with a few venues. We're really working on this. It's a challenge. You know what I mean? Like, building a relationship with a venue is tough. It's not impossible, but I mean, it's tough. It takes time, and it takes the right venue that wants this to be at their venue. So we're not trying to go out too fast with it either. We did a lot of 2-year deals with partners. So if you expand the series, like, registration fees don't pay for these events. It's partner dollars. Registration fees are part of it, obviously, but these events cost a whole lot more than the registration fees from the athletes. So for us to just say, all right, 4 events this year, 6, 7, 8 events next year, they need to be financed.
Yeah.
And we're working through that right now, and we're trying to find additional partnerships to help expand that. But also we need to staff up. We need to grow on the inside too. We need to be able to build better prize purses, to be able to build a full series like prize purse. You know, I want people to, like, the winner of the pro class for the Monster Energy Pro Downhill Series should get $50,000. You know, like,
to win the series.
Yeah, like, that's where we want to be in life.
Yeah.
It's going to take us years to get there, but it's all just more of a slow, steady growth. At the same time, we're also experiencing crazy fast growth this year, and we're in the 4th event of the year, 3 events in, and hitting metrics in certain degrees, like rider numbers and views and stuff that we didn't expect to hit till the middle of next year. So that's cool. But goal is next year to add 2 more events and to expand into the Rockies and a little more out west. We have really strong racing on the East Coast in the U.S. We want to add a little bit more West Coast racing. So those are the immediate goals. And to kind of fix the format and run of show so that we don't run into some of those problems that we had this week with not being able to get everybody in.
Dude, that's been fascinating. I know we could go for hours on end
Yeah.
and get into the history, but maybe if there's anything I missed, jump in. And I know there is a lot, but
I think we covered it pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, I think that I would say, like, you know, the biggest thing people can do for us is subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we're trying to build a content platform too. You know, we want to put this for free in front of kids so that kids can come in America and around the whole world can just watch downhill mountain biking. So definitely check out the YouTube, subscribe to that, and work with us as we build that up. Ultimately, you know, we want to be able to get this to live broadcast in the next 2 years. So.
And the username, I was going to plug that. So
Yeah.
the YouTube is?
Pro Downhill Series.
Yeah, Pro
So-
Downhill Series, and that's on Instagram as
Instagram,
well.
everything's Pro Downhill Series. So
Yeah, and
we
don't Instagram Clay directly that you missed your registration.
or that
'Cause
you want to get in the whip contest.
I've seen all the best whip.
That's what, yeah.
Oh, is that why my invite, you didn't respond? I went to the wrong Instagram.
Yeah, I think so.
Shit, okay, well, I'll stick to podcasting then. But no, thanks so much to you for the passion and for bringing back US Open after all these years. And I think for giving another platform to people to race their bikes. Like, there isn't enough racing on a high level. So
I mean,
yeah.
we want
and
to see
props to your whole team, man.
Thank you for that. They
your
need
wife,
they need to hear that.
The rides from the airport that I got, like, I can just see, like I said, I met the kids.
Yeah.
They're not just shredders on the bike. They're good kids and helping out.
Those
It takes me back to, like, I think I was, my parents and other riders' parents, like, putting on these little, we called them the summer series races. And after the race, like, we were, like, ripping the candy tape down. And, like, if I think back, like, the amount of work my parents did, like you're doing.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, like, my dad and mom were helping. Like, my dad was, like, a commissaire, so he did all that stuff for the UCI. But at home in the off-season, like, we had 4 race series in our local region called the Summer Series. But, like, I guess he just put it on probably to let his kids race more. And it was like this. It was on a smaller scale, but we all just, like, went there and taped the course. And then afterwards, like, you know, my mom was doing the registration, helping. Like,
it doesn't change.
It does take, like, families to be passionate to, like, put like a Nico Malali, you know, like, to put the sport on his back and put on a race, and then he gets you to help, and then now next thing you guys have a series.
Yeah, and there's a handful of us in the country doing it. You know what I mean? There's other series, regional series that do just as much hard work. But the kids that you went out with, you know, like Zach and Kai and Sully and Colton and stuff, those kids were on the hill by 7 a.m. today in the pouring rain, helping finish the setup.
That's awesome.
It's pretty sick.
Because, like, a lot of what we speak about sometimes in the pod is, like, the entitlement, or, like, I get these messages, like, how do I get sponsored? It's like,
oh, gosh, that's
dude,
the best
these
one,
kids
right?
are killing it. That's how you get sponsored. You just go and help at a race. You ride your bike more. You race more. And then things start happening. And people, like, see that you appreciate things.
It's
so
exactly
that's
what it
really
is.
good.
And work ethic. You know, like, these kids have work ethic, and they also have just this group coming up. Like I said, this 15, 16 group, and there's dozens and dozens of these kids, but, like, the culture of it, they're different, man. Like, they're just different. The way they ride is different. How easy it comes to them is different. I don't know if the established world and the pros are ready. Like, I don't know if they're ready for the 15, 16-year-olds coming up right now.
It's going to be, they're going to sort of nip on, like, Jackson and Ace's heels pretty quickly, you know?
Really quickly.
Really, really quickly. Well, dude, that was fascinating. Thanks for everything you do. So if you're on audio listening to this, hit me up on YouTube, Moving the Needle. But more importantly, go check out Pro Downhill Series on YouTube and on Instagram. Because, the content is amazing for the first year. Like, thanks to the team. Thanks to you, yeah.
We're doing it. We're doing a lot with a little. Like
Yeah,
we're
a lot with a little. There's another quote.
We're doing a
Do
lot
a
with
lot with a little.
Well, I
Under
mean,
promise, over deliver.
or we're like basically trying to deliver a champagne experience on a Miller Lite budget. That's where we're at.
There you go. I think that's how we're going to sign off. Till the next one. Peace.
Thank you.